Okay, let's dive right into this. Welcome. Today, we are going to break down a topic that, honestly, causes a ton of confusion in the crypto space: tokens. What are they? How are they different from coins? And what in the world do they actually do? Let's figure it out.
So you're definitely familiar with the big names, right? Bitcoin, Ethereum, you hear about them all the time. But then you start hearing people talk about uni tokens or NFTs or governance tokens, and it all starts to get a little blurry. Are these all just different kinds of crypto? Well, the short answer is no. And you know what? Understanding that difference is absolutely crucial.
To make this super clear, let's just forget about crypto for a second. I want you to picture a classic old-school video game arcade.
Okay, so you walk in, right? You can't just go stick a dollar bill into your favorite game. It won't work. The first thing you have to do is go to the counter and exchange your regular money for something that only works inside that arcade.
Now, that little arcade token has one job and one job only. It lets you play the games. You can't take it down the street to buy a cup of coffee. Its value, its whole purpose, is tied directly to that arcade ecosystem.
And that right there is the perfect model for how a crypto token works. It's a digital asset that isn't its own independent currency. Instead, it's built to run on top of an existing blockchain. Think of Ethereum as our digital arcade. And it's designed to do a very specific job inside its own application or its own game.
All right, so now that we have that arcade analogy stuck in our heads, let's get a little more precise. Because the single most important thing to get right in this space is the difference between a coin and a token.
The whole thing really boils down to 3 points. Coins, like Bitcoin or Ether, are native to their own blockchain. They're the fuel, the actual gas money that makes the entire network run. Tokens, on the other hand, are built on top of that network. They aren't mined into existence. They're created by special programs called smart contracts to do a specific job inside an app.
Here's another way to think about it that I think really hits home. A coin is like a country's currency, the US dollar, for example. A token, that's more like a gift card or a subway pass. It's definitely valuable, but its power is limited to a very specific system that's already up and running.
So if tokens aren't mined, where do they come from? Well, they're created in what you could call a digital factory. And that factory is powered by something called a smart contract.
A smart contract is basically just a computer program that lives on the blockchain. The best way to think of it is as an automated digital rulebook. For a token, this rulebook defines everything. What's its name, how many will ever exist, what it can and can't do. And once it's on the blockchain, it just runs itself, enforcing the rules without anyone in charge.
Creating one at a high level is kind of like a 3-step dance. First, a developer writes down all the rules for the token. Second, that code gets translated into a language the blockchain can actually read. And third, it's published to the network. And boom, that's it. The token now exists, forever following those unchangeable rules written in its code.
Okay, so we know what they are, we know how they're made, but what's the point? This is where things get really powerful. We're going to look at 4 main types, but just keep in mind these categories can definitely overlap. One token can have more than one job.
First up, we've got utility tokens. Just like our good old arcade token, these things act like a digital key or a voucher that gives you access to a specific product or service on a network.
A perfect example of this is Filecoin. You use the PHIL token to pay for decentralized data storage. It's not general-purpose money, it's basically a prepaid voucher for one specific service. And this is a huge deal because it allows entire digital economies to be built that are totally self-sustaining, without needing any traditional payment systems.
Next up, we have governance tokens. And these are fascinating. They essentially give you a voice, a say in how a project is run. Just by holding the token, you get voting rights on huge decisions that affect the future of the whole protocol. Uniswap's Uni token is the classic example. People who hold it can vote on proposals, like whether to change the fees. It's kind of like being a digital shareholder, sure, but it's more than that. It's this whole new experiment where the users and the people with skin in the game, not some executive team, get to collectively steer the ship.
The third type, security tokens, is where the digital world and the real world start to collide. These are regulated digital assets that represent actual ownership of a real-world investment, like a piece of art or company stock.
Their real superpower is making things that are usually impossible to invest in accessible. Think about it. A multi-million-dollar building can be tokenized into thousands of tiny digital shares. This lets smaller investors buy a piece of it.
It could totally democratize access to investments that were once only for the super rich.
And finally, the famous, or maybe infamous, non-fungible tokens, NFTs. Now, most tokens are fungible, which just means one is the same as any other. But each NFT is totally unique. You can't replace one with another because each one is one of a kind.
Yeah, you've definitely seen them used for digital art, but their real job is so much bigger. An NFT is just a tool to prove you own any unique item, a concert ticket, a university degree, or even the deed to your house. It's a unique, globally verifiable digital title of ownership.
Now, as exciting and mind-bending as all of this is, it is absolutely critical to understand that this space is still the Wild West. Before we wrap up, we have to talk about the very real risks involved here.
You got to keep 3 major warnings in mind. First, scams are everywhere. You have to watch out for things like rug pulls, where developers get everyone excited, take their money, and then just disappear. Second, the volatility is insane. Prices can swing wildly for no good reason. And third, nobody really knows what the rules are yet. The laws for this stuff are still being figured out, which creates this huge legal gray area.
And because of all those risks, there is one mantra that you will hear over and over again in the crypto world, and for very good reason. Always, always do your own research. Don't just rely on hype, you have to understand what you're getting into.
So there you have it. Tokens aren't just another word for cryptocurrency. They are programmable, specialized assets. They're the building blocks for a whole new wave of applications and digital ownership. The potential is just massive. But the question remains, is the foundation that we're all building on truly solid ground? I guess that's what we're all going to be watching to find out.